What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Matt is going to be joining me in just a moment to talk NFL draft. When this podcast drops on April 17th, we will be 1 week out from the NFL draft, and I am super excited. I cannot wait to get there. Been thinking about this way too much for months now. So I'm excited to see who my team picks, what my team does, and then where all the other dominoes fall. Today, Matt and I are going to be taking a look at the draft through a gambling perspective. We're going to look at who Vegas thinks the top 10 picks in the draft are going to be and talk about whether or not we agree and who else could potentially fit into those spots. We're going to look at some player over-unders, and then we're going to look at our favorite bets for the 2025 NFL draft, or at least the first round of it. So stay tuned for that. But first, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening, and we always love to hear from you. Send us an email. Let us know who you want your team to draft in the first round, second round, third round. Like I'm so deep into this thing right now. We can talk seventh round draft picks if you guys are into it. So send us an email, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. But for now, let's go grab Matt. Let's talk NFL draft. Let's go. All right, Matt is here. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How about you?
I am fantastic. 1 week out from the NFL draft, when this pod drops, I'm ready. I'm ready for my Super Bowl. Matt, we've talked about this multiple times that I am now in a situation where my shitty team picking fourth in the NFL draft is like not only the best thing that's going to happen for me on a football calendar, but if you look at the state of all four of my teams in the four major sports, this is the best thing that's going to happen to me this year, I think.
Yeah, the turns have tabled.
Yes. Not where we used to be, but it's where we are now, and I'm very excited for it. So we're looking at the draft from a little bit different perspective today. We're partnering with our good friends at DraftKings Sportsbook to look at the odds in the NFL draft. So we're going to run through the top 10. They have the odds posted for the top 10 draft picks. We'll spend some time focusing on those this week and maybe talk about a couple bets that we really like for the NFL draft at the end of this podcast, because this is the time to make some money on the draft. We did this episode a couple years ago when the Lions selected Aiden Hutchinson second overall, and we made a ton of money because we had the Jaguars first round pick, or we had the Jaguars first overall pick correct. We had the Lions first overall pick correct. So we made a bunch of money there. You remember last year, Matt told you probably a month in advance of the draft that Joe Alt was going to go fifth to the Chargers. And we bet on that at like plus 475 well ahead of time, and we hit that. So there are really good odds because Vegas kind of reacts to smokescreen season and move some of the odds around based on news and based on what insiders are hearing. And then things can come completely out of left field. I was reading an article today saying that like 3% of the tickets on DraftKings last year bet on Michael Penix to go seventh overall or whatever pick he went, because most people thought that the Falcons were going to trade that pick away and someone else would jump in there and draft him. But it was basically 66-1 last year for him to get drafted in the slot that he was drafted in. So it's a good time to make money. We're going to talk about who the odds on favorites are to go 1 through 10, maybe look at some alternatives and give you guys some of our favorite bets. So without further ado, the number one pick in this draft is the Tennessee Titans, and it is no secret and no surprise who they are drafting. They announced about a month ago at this point that Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami, would be the number one overall pick in this draft. Vegas obviously supports that. Cam Ward is currently minus 20,000
Yep.
to go first overall. So you would have to bet $20,000 to win 100 on that pick. I wanted to ask you something though, because everybody's talking about the fact that Cam Ward is going to go first.
Mhm.
It's almost like the Kyler Murray draft a little while back where it was kind of known ahead of time that's where the
Yep.
Cardinals were going. So we know it's going to happen, but my question to you is it the correct pick? I haven't heard anybody talk about this.
I don't necessarily think that's an easy answer. I would say it is only because they need to get a quarterback. And it's all well and good to say, well, take Abdul Carter, take Travis Hunter, right? Whoever's your number one player. It should be Hunter. And then, take a quarterback next year. We don't know that they're going to be in this position next year. You kind of need to take your shot while you're here. If you don't got a guy, um, I think there's enough to like about Cam Ward to say the upside is a reasonable possibility to work out. Uh, but he's certainly, I would say, not a polished enough product for us to say, like we did with Joe Burrow, like this guy's already ready, right? Like it's just going to work. And then obviously, like there's some of the personality stuff where like you and I maybe not super sold on him, like that the whole like stuff around the bowl game and all that stuff. So uh I I think you have to take your shot, but I think either way, you kind of have to be right.
Yeah, that so this is my thing about this pick is I've heard this repeatedly from a couple different people I talked to about the draft where people say, well, they don't have a quarterback, they have to take the best quarterback.
Hmm.
I want to posit to you, you do not have to do anything.
Nope.
So my answer, it's a little bit of a cop
Yeah.
out, but my answer is that this should completely depend on your evaluation of Cam Ward
Yep.
and the fact that if you Tennessee Titans think that he is the guy, then you
Hmm.
obviously draft him first overall. But if you do not believe he is the guy, which is where I'm at on Cam Ward,
Yeah.
for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, but especially the off the field
Yep.
stuff is
That's
very, very
that's
concerning.
what would that's what gives me pause on it. But
Like you don't have to take him, especially
nope.
not when there's two blue chip prospects staring you in the face
Yeah.
in Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. So I think you're 100% right. This is not a slam dunk like it is in years past, where it's like, hey,
No.
Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, like those are slam
Hmm.
dunk picks. Joe Burrow was a good one. Even like Trevor Lawrence, I know it hasn't the actual Trevor Lawrence experience hasn't lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
But when he was coming out, it was like, okay, I know you correctly had a lot of questions about him, but it was still like this is the guy. This is the quarterback you
Yeah,
take first overall.
for sure.
Cam Ward in almost any other draft would not be the first overall pick. And it kind of reminds me of the NBA draft this past year where the Hawks had the first pick and they're like, well, shit, we got to take somebody. And so they took somebody who wasn't worth the draft slot. But in this case, you do have guys who are worth that draft slot. Like I think
Yeah.
Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are very much worth that draft spot.
Yep.
So you better be right
Hmm.
because if you're wrong, your fans are going to be looking at this for the next 10 years and being like, oh my God, we could have had that guy.
Yeah.
We could have had that guy.
Hmm.
He absolutely is going number one. I just haven't heard anybody question whether it's the right decision or not because it just seems like there's a lot of groupthink around like, well, he's the number one pick and they have the number one pick and he's the best quarterback. So that's who they got to take. And I'm like, You don't have to do anything, Tennessee. You
You
don't
don't.
have to do anything you
You
don't want
don't.
to do.
Yeah.
So odds at number one minus 20,000. Number two and number three, I think we can kind of talk about together here, but Cleveland is at number two, and Travis Hunter is minus 330 to go to Cleveland now. Number three is the Giants, and Abdul Carter is minus 285. I would say I hate to say I told you so, but I love saying I told you so on this podcast. I've been saying for months
Yeah.
that
Finally picking up a quarterback kind of solidified that. Although I don't, I don't know they really picked up a quarterback that is worthy of not taking a quarterback, but
yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like Cleveland now has Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, and Joe Flacco,
yeah.
and the Giants now have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and what Tommy DeVito brought back the Italian guy.
Yeah.
So but before that, before any of these people had ever signed any quarterbacks, and people were saying that Shador Sanders was going to be a top three pick in this draft,
Yeah.
I I've been adamant that there were not going to be two quarterbacks picked in
Hmm.
the top three. I think what the really interesting question here is, are Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter the two picks, or is there someone else who could sneak into the two or the three spot? I think Cleveland is taking Travis Hunter at this point
Yeah.
from everything we know.
Hmm.
But the Giants, you have Kevon Thibodeau and Brian Burns as your edge
Hmm.
rushers. So not that like Kevon Thibodeau is like great shakes. He's shown some flashes, but
Hmm.
I don't think that he's enough to prevent you from taking a really true blue chip guy like Abdul Carter. But could we see them take Mason Graham at number three? Or do you think this is just going to be a super vanilla 1, 2, 3 Ward Hunter Carter?
I think they probably end up going pretty vanilla here. It's possible for sure, but I doubt they're gonna look that gift horse in the mouth, you know?
Yeah.
So,
For what it's worth, it's the right pick to take Carter,
mhm,
the guy I have as the
mhm.
number one player in this draft at three. Did I hear you right earlier when you said you have Travis Hunter as the number one player right now?
Yeah.
Hmm. I feel like that's a change from where we were previously.
Not necessarily. It's just that I guess I don't know that I trust most NFL teams to have a defined plan for him. Um,
Will you be how will you feel about the plan laid out for him in Cleveland?
God. Oh, that I mean, Cleveland's plans in general aren't great.
Yeah. I do think Travis Hunter to Cleveland makes a lot of sense for a lot of the reasons I said that Travis Hunter to the Giants made sense. Because if you're a Cleveland fan, what are you looking forward to next year?
Yeah.
Like I just named the three quarterbacks that are in that room. Your best case scenario might be getting Watson back, who how many
Yeah.
how many weeks did we spend this past year talking about how he was having the worst season in the history of quarterbacks? How many weeks did he play? 14. We probably
Yeah.
spent 14 weeks talking about it. So
Truly.
Travis Hunter, I said this about the Giants a couple weeks ago. Travis Hunter is the most exciting rookie before, like, he will be the biggest story of any rookie before we start playing football. Once we start playing football, we'll see what happens. But like the buzz around him and whatever team he's on is going to be so positive and so exciting for those fans to see. Like, is he going to play both sides? What does that look like? Is he going to have games where he has like two picks and 100 receiving yards? Like, can he be
Yeah.
the Shohei Otani type of barrier breaker? I think if I'm a Cleveland fan, that I'm probably looking at this. If we take Travis Hunter, I'm like, hey man, we were pretty good with Joe Flacco at quarterback a couple of years. And I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying if I'm a Cleveland fan, I'm like, we were pretty good with Joe Flacco at quarterback a couple of years ago in the Stefanski offense. We're going to play Travis Hunter both ways, and he's going to be Shohei Ohtani. Myles Garrett is on the team still. Like, yeah, I'm feeling good. But also, if I'm a Cleveland fan, I'm looking at this and being like, oh, so we promised Myles Garrett some kind of solution at quarterback and gave him the most money in the history of a non quarterback. And now we have Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett to start the season.
Or or Myles Garrett is also playing quarterback.
Oh, he's like, yeah, we got a plan at quarterback. For the Giants, it's weird to say this, but like, this isn't worst case scenario for them, but I feel like it's definitely option C, where I think their first choice would have been Cam Ward, obviously.
Yeah.
The second choice for them, I think, would very clearly be Travis Hunter. And
Hmm.
now, like, they're kind of stuck with the best player in the draft, which is the right pick. But do you think there's a world where the Giants just give up some absolutely ludicrous trade package to trade up to number one?
I mean, I'm sure they have tried to test those waters already. Um, I just don't know that the Titans are even open to taking one.
It doesn't seem like it, but the
Yeah.
rumor, well, I guess it's not a rumor because it was on Hard Knocks that
Yeah.
Joe Shane offered the Patriots their first, second, and third pick last year and this year for Drake May. And the Patriots said no. And I was like, damn, I love Drake May, but he better be good. He better be damn good because we could have had 6 picks for him.
Yeah.
Um, but I do wonder, like, Joe Shane's still there. Is he willing to offer Tennessee that deal for Cam Ward? And
Yeah.
I know Cam Ward is going to be the number one pick in this draft, but he is not the caliber of prospect that Drake May was.
No.
So, I mean, I'm listening to that. I'm a little more willing. Maybe I'm trying to see like what else can I get thrown in there aside from picks? Are there some young? I mean, like Neighbors is not going to be in there, but are
No.
there some other guys on the Giants where I'm like, yeah, maybe it's like one or two young players and 6 picks or something like that for Cam Ward? I don't know. So probably the top three that I've been predicting for a while: Ward, Hunter, Carter.
Yep.
So then we go to number 4, which is currently the New England Patriots pick. This has been, I think, what Patriot fans have been calling the nightmare scenario ever since we lost that game to the Buffalo Bills. All Patriot fans, aside from me, have been trying to convince themselves that Shedeur Sanders was going to go in the top 3. It is not happening unless, like, if you really believe Shedeur Sanders is going to go in the top 3, I would go slam that bet right now. He's plus 1,300 to go second overall and plus
Hmm.
475 to go third overall. So if you believe that, I'm pounding that bet. For pick number 4, the odds say Will Campbell is minus 225. Armand Membu now plus 650. So it
Hmm.
seems like there's some inside information that the Patriots certainly have a preference here when it comes to offensive linemen. I'm just going to repeat this because you asked me this a couple weeks ago, and you said if the top 3 is Ward, Hunter, Carter, who do you want it for? And I'm going to give you the same answer that I gave you back then. I think Will Campbell is the correct pick for the New England Patriots. I know a lot of people would be rooting for a trade down in this scenario, but I just want to remind everybody that in order to trade down, you have to have somebody who wants to trade up with
Yep.
you. And in this scenario where Hunter and Carter are gone at 4, I don't know who is interested in trading into that spot
Yeah.
for whom. Like, there's been some rumors the Bears and the 49ers are interested in coming up from 10 and 11, but how much are they willing to give up? You're not going to get appropriate market value to go from
Yeah.
10 to 11. Like, are the Saints interested in moving up from 9? I don't know. Is it worth
Yeah.
like is it worth going down 5, 6 picks from here to get like a third if
I
that's
mean,
all you're getting?
I could maybe if someone wants to jump some other teams to get like Jalen Walker, maybe, but like that's not a move that we historically have seen teams make. It's in this area of the draft, it is pretty exclusively quarterback driven.
Yeah. I think if Carter is still here, I do think Carter's the pick. He's plus
Oh,
six.
absolutely.
He's plus 600 to be pick number 4. But in this scenario, I still believe Will Campbell is the correct pick. Like I heard this recently that at this stage in the draft, you have to eat your vegetables. Like you have to build the engine before you build the body of the car. And I
Mhm.
look at someone like Gene Tier Warren, who I have as higher rated prospects, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. We would have a Ferrari with Drake May and Gene T in our backfield, but we would
Yeah.
have a Ferrari with the engine of a 1992 Honda Civic. It doesn't matter who is in your backfield and who is on the outside and who is where for you if the offensive line sucks. And the offensive line was, I think, no hyperbole, the worst offensive line I've ever watched in my time watching football last year.
It was bad.
It was bad. And I know Will Campbell has little tiny baby T Rex arms, but I almost want to make this a video podcast just so you all can see what Matt just did. Um, but like even with his little tiny baby T Rex arms, Will Campbell was the best offensive lineman in the country last year, playing in a conference in the SEC where he goes up against the biggest, fastest, strongest edge rushers that there are. Like,
Yeah.
look at all the edge rushers in this draft. The top guys, for the most part, are like SEC guys, aside from Abdul Carter and like Josiah Stewart and some other guys. Like, there's a shitload of SEC guys
Hmm.
that he went up against. They played Georgia and they played Florida and they played Texas. And they played like all these big schools. And Will Campbell's tape says, I am a good left tackle at the college
Yeah.
level. I think worst case scenario, his little tiny baby arms don't work out in the NFL and you swing him into guard and he's an all pro level guard. I've said that before. I think his floor is being a very, very good guard. And another saying I heard about this draft that I really like is that this draft is not a stars draft, but it is a starters draft. And you may not draft Will Campbell to be a star at left tackle for the next 15 years,
Hmm.
but is he a guy that you can like plug in at left tackle and be like, hey, we have our starting left tackle for the next 10 years? He may not
Yeah.
be top 5 in the league, but he's top 10. He's top 15. Like he's a really good starter at left tackle. That is light years beyond where we were the last couple of years with this offensive line. So I I think that's the correct pick for them. I will be happy if we come away with Will Campbell in the first round. Would I be happier if we went down to 6 and got Will Campbell? Sure. But if we stick at 4 and draft Will Campbell, I'm just going to come on the pod and be like, that was the right decision.
Yeah.
It was the right choice.
I don't disagree that like he is based on the information that we have the best player available for you guys. Um, yeah, obviously they have direct contact with these players to know the person and like if you really believe in the person that is Armand Membu, then I would say, yeah, that probably should be the pick just because of the physical potential that he has. If you believe that that's a guy that is going to develop and maximize that potential, you take that player. Um, But we don't have that information to go off of, so I'm not going to suggest that that should be the pick.
Yeah. I won't
Um,
be mad about Membu. If the pick was Membu and
mhm.
Vrabel was like, this is the guy we thought was the best left tackle, I'd just be like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it, but if that's what you guys think on your evaluation, like I
Well,
have to defer to them.
I don't think that Vrabel is gonna make that move without there being a plan, right?
Yeah.
Um, just like so with Will Campbell, I think that as a pass protector, he's clearly the best in this class and better than most in most classes. Like he's really good there. The drawbacks for him is that yes, the baby arms are a thing. But I also think that playing with power isn't really a strength for him. In the run game, he can still do a really good job, but like you can't be a team that's relying a whole lot on like power duo. Like he's gonna excel a lot more in zone schemes than trying to dig guys out. Uh, so and that's where I would also really say like moving him into guard, you probably have to be careful because that is probably going to be even more scheme dependent because you're going to have to play with more strength. You have to know who he is as a player and like if you take him, your plan as a team has to keep that in mind. Um, as you said, like starters, not stars. Stars, you kind of don't really have to worry about like what your plan is. They're just that good, right? Well, like you have a bunch of starters, those starters should probably be able to align and do the same thing together.
Yeah. I do think that there are some stars in this class for the record, but it's guys like
Yeah,
Gene T and uh Tyler Warren and Nick Eamon, like not guys you if you're the Patriots, you are not
yeah,
taking them at 4. Although if we did take Tyler Warren, I'd I'd be kind of into it too. I think I talked about that before, where it's just like,
yeah,
hey, you need a weapon for Drake, right? He's the number one weapon in the class, except for Travis Hunter's wide receiver skills. So
yeah.
pick number 5, the Jacksonville Jags right now. The favorite to go fifth is Mason Graham, but we're at minus 130 for
Yeah.
Mason Graham. So what Vegas is telling you is like, hey, here's what we think, but they are definitely not as certain on this pick as they are on the first 4.
Nope.
And neither am I, because I could see the Jags going anywhere. And this is the spot where I'm starting to look at someone like Tyler Warren at plus 2,000.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I got a little sprinkle on it already. Look at like Ashton Jean T is plus 500 to go here. I feel like Mason Graham is probably the correct pick.
Hmm.
It's the smart pick. But
Assuming the medicals are clear.
how many times have the Jacksonville Jaguars made the smart and correct pick?
Never.
Yeah, I mean they got BTJ last year. I'll give them credit for that.
Might
But
I
like,
remind you of Aiden Hutchinson?
yes, that's where I'm going with this. Is I came on this pod a couple of years ago and I was like, listen, Aiden Hutchinson is not going first in this draft, and everybody at the time's like, he's the first pick, and I'm like, listen, he's the best player in the draft, but he's not going first because the
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars are picking first, and that's where we made a bunch of money. And what
Yeah.
I'm saying to you now is that Tyler Warren is plus 2,000 to be the 5th overall pick in this draft. T Mac is plus 1,800. Ashton Jeanty is plus 500. This
I
is a spot where I'm looking at guys aside from Mason Graham at minus 130 and
I wouldn't
thinking of the
even rule out
possibilities.
Jalen Walker.
Yep, he's plus 400, so he's the
Yeah.
next best odds. Michael Williams, Will Johnson, like there are other guys where I'm not going to be shy about putting a little sprinkle on somebody at higher odds here. And
Yeah.
I just think Tyler Warren makes so much sense where, because we talked about this during the season with Trevor Lawrence's contract, like you've been trying to make Trevor Lawrence work for years. And
Yeah.
now that you've paid him, you have to make Trevor Lawrence work.
Hmm.
And you have BTJ, but you've been trying to figure out these wide receiver spots and these pass catcher spots for years. And you just got rid of
Yeah.
Evan Ingram. You just got rid of Christian Kirk. Just got rid of some guys who have been pretty solid for you for a couple years now because you're
Yeah.
moving more towards like BTJ, which I think is the right move.
Hmm.
But who's the number two pass catcher on this team?
Yeah. No, I think
Coming,
Tyler Warren makes a lot of
I
sense.
know. I really like it. And I mean, I think Mason Graham's probably the right pick. It's the smart pick, like I said. But
Hmm.
I mean, the Jags offense with BTJ and Tyler Warren, you're talking about something that could be pretty dynamic with Liam Cohen taking over as the head coach.
I mean, even Membu makes sense too, right? Like
Yeah.
it's it's not like they have, built the engine of their car either. So,
Yeah. I got a little sprink on Tyler Warren here.
yeah.
Also, I think like Ginty has been repeatedly mocked to the Raiders at 6. The odds on it right now are actually not that great. We're going to talk about them in a sec, but like
Yeah.
there's been a lot of smoke about Ginty being the 6th pick in this draft.
Hmm.
And he is a special running back prospect. We are moving more towards running backs again with the year Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry and Jameer Gibbs and like all these guys, what they have
Hmm.
done. I could see someone trying to trade ahead of the Raiders so that they get like, could the Bears trade
Yeah.
up to 5 to get Gene T? The bet is which player will be pick number 5, not who will the Jacksonville Jaguars take at number 5.
Yeah.
So if you think that's a possibility, then you kind of get the double edged sword here with Gene T plus 500, where it's like, okay, if the Jacksonville Jaguars take Gene T, you win. If someone trades into that spot and takes Gene T, you win. So I got little sprinkles on Gene T and Tyler Warren to go 5th overall here.
I almost wonder though if the Bears are kind of sitting there saying, we have two guys, right? We want GT, we want Warren. And the moment one of them goes off the board is when they're going to go on offense.
But this is the thing that's scary for
Yeah.
them, though, is like we both just talked about how we like Tyler Warren to the Jags.
Yeah.
If the Jags take Tyler Warren and now all
Yeah.
of a sudden the Raiders are sitting there at 6, and they take Gene T, like you just missed on
Yeah.
both your guys. So you
Yep.
kind of have to be proactive about that. If you're like, I want one of these guys, I don't think you can
Yeah.
count on one or both of them falling to 10.
Yeah. I don't want either of them going to the Bears. So,
Yeah. I don't blame you. The only reason I want Gene T to go to the Bears is to fuck the Bears fan who has the number 2 pick in our dynasty league.
yeah.
Like, ha 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 ha. Na 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 na. But speaking of Ashton the Gene T, he is the favorite to go number 6, which is currently the Raiders pick,
Hmm.
but it's only minus 135, which for all of the smoke there's been about the Raiders being interested in him, 135 seems low. The thought process has been Pete Carroll's an older coach who wants to win now, and he loves the running game, and they have no running backs to speak of in Vegas. So I see how it makes sense from that perspective. But let me throw this at you. Pete Carroll also came up as a DB's coach. And every stop that he has had success, he has had very good defensive backfields. The Raiders just cut Jack Jones, who was probably their best defensive back.
Yeah, probably.
All I want to say here is that Will Johnson is plus 750 and Jahade Barron is plus 2,800. I kind of am mad at myself for not having Jahade Barron as my guy last
Yeah, I
week.
thought of I thought
Yeah,
about him.
I like it. He came out as the number 5 player on my board. Like I like him a lot. I think he's a belated my guy. I think we add him to the list and just say this is a one we co-sign. But I don't think a DB here is crazy. And
No,
honestly wouldn't be all that surprising to me.
no, I wouldn't be surprised if either of them went here. I still think it will probably be GT if he's there.
Raiders first pick to be a cornerback plus 550. I that's worth a little it's worth a little sprinky dink. Just
What is
saying.
it for the Rams?
Rams to draft a cornerback,
Yeah,
or what is the Rams first pick going to be?
Rams first pick.
Rams first pick cornerback is plus 225, offensive line is plus 275, defensive line slash edge is plus 500. So there's more like there's more bets out there right now where if you have a good feeling about what your team's going to do, you can make some cash here. Right.
Yeah.
Pick 7, currently the jet spot. The favorite is Armand Membu, minus
Hmm.
115. I think this makes a lot of sense
Yep.
for the Jets. Like the defense has fallen off the last couple of years,
Hmm.
but I think still has a lot of pieces that you like with Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner and some other guys that are on that defense.
Yeah.
I think if I'm the Jets and I'm hiring Aaron Glenn to be my head coach, I'm like,
You
hey,
realize what he had to work with the first several years in Detroit?
no, this is what I'm saying is I'm like,
Like,
hey, you come and fix this. Like
yeah,
this is fixable. The talent's
hmm
there. You fix this. We're spending our capital on offense.
it was fine until they fired Salah.
Yeah, God. I kind of feel bad for Aaron Glenn just because he has to coach the New York Jets.
I mean, it was his choice.
I know
He didn't have to.
they paid him a lot of money to do it,
Yeah, I mean, they had to.
but I
So,
still like. I'm like the defense is fine. You deal with this. We're spending our
hmm
capital on offense, and the offensive line has been shit for so long.
yeah.
For so long. So you get a guy who's versatile, who I don't know that Membu's a left tackle in the league. It's funny.
No, I think he's a right tackle, but you know who
Yeah.
else is a right tackle? Penny Sewell.
Yeah. No, right tackle is not a bad. This is the thing is like people say this with Will Campbell
Yeah,
too, where they're like, "Whoa, oh, if he's got to go to another position, then he's not worth the pick." And it's like, I would love to have a great offensive lineman at any one of the 5 positions. You name
right?
it. We have zero. The Patriots have zero
Are
good
you telling
offensive
me
line.
you don't want Quentin Nelson?
Yeah, like just the same thing with Membu. It's people are like, well, he might be a right tackle, but then you have a good right tackle.
Yeah,
Do you have a good right tackle right now? No. Okay, but I mean, if he's a right tackle or a guard, my thing about Membu is that he was a guard. Like, this is, I guess, I would say this about Will Campbell too. Is that like, so when we were playing football,
yeah.
Armand Membu was a guard.
Hmm.
The further away we've gotten from playing football, he's not only gone up draft boards, but he's also switched positions and
Yeah,
he's become a great tackle prospect when before he was like a mid first round guard prospect. And that also kind of builds my case for Will Campbell, who I don't want to go back to too much, but like when we were playing football, Will Campbell was a top 3 pick in this draft. And then
yeah,
the further away we get from playing football, it's like tiny baby dinosaur arms. Yeah, don't know. But I don't know. Either way, man, Membu, the testing numbers are freaky.
yep,
And so if he's a great guard or he's a great right tackle, I still think this is the right pick for the Jets.
yeah. I would agree.
I think the only question on this bet is do the Jets make the right pick?
Yeah.
Could it be Shador Sanders plus 1,000? I don't know, man. They're like, yeah, we're really happy with Justin Fields, which I feel like is what everybody has said about Justin Fields until we start playing football.
Yes.
Like Justin Fields was 4-2 for Pittsburgh last year, and they were like, yeah, we're not so happy with Justin Fields. So pick 8, currently the Carolina Panthers spot the Mad Cats. This is the first pick where we do not have a negative odds favorite.
Yeah.
I think part of that is just as you get later in the draft, it's like harder to say who will be there. So it's like, like, yeah, they're plus, it's plus money because like Jalen Walker could go ahead of this spot. So it's like harder
Yep.
to know he's going to be there. But also, I think like it is very, very hard to determine what the Carolina Mad Cats are going to do in this position.
Absolutely.
So Jalen Walker's plus 150, Michael Williams plus 350. That's a name we haven't heard yet. The edge from Georgia. T Mac plus
Hmm.
500, Mason Graham plus 850, Will Johnson plus 1300, Jihad Campbell plus 1400. Matt, what is the correct pick here for the Mad Cats at 8?
Best player available.
Yeah. I feel like that's just your standard answer.
Well, I mean, like, look at their team. Is your team good enough to say, hey, we have one need, and if we get this need filled, then we're gonna contend, or we're gonna be a playoff team? The answer is no. They are not good enough for that, right?
Though
So you just have to keep amassing talent.
it may not be a position, but I don't think that they're that far away from competing for the NFC South. I don't know.
No,
If Bryce Young
no.
continues to take a step forward in the way I think he can.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair. With that being said, um, it would be probably most beneficial for them if the best player available was someone that can help Bryce Young take that step.
You know who I want them to take here. Assuming he's still there, I think Tyler Warren makes so much sense for the
Yeah,
Mad Cats. So like I talked about
yeah, I brought it up like a week or two ago, right?
I think both of us have over the course of
Yeah,
like the last couple of weeks. It's just like,
yeah.
and I talked about the effect that Gronk had on the Patriots offense, where
Mhm.
they did not have a true number one receiver, but Gronk demanded so much attention that it made all these other guys better underneath.
Yeah,
And I think like the Panthers have a lot of good receivers, like okay to good. And if you had someone like Tyler Warren on the Panthers to draw attention from the defense, that these guys could do some damage with Bryce Young and
yeah,
Chuba. Like all of a sudden, that offense is getting dynamic. So he is plus 1,600 to go here. I feel like Vegas does not know what to do with Tyler Warren. He's just like plus huge odds to basically go anywhere until we get to like the Colts or something, I think. But
yeah. Well, I mean, like, I would say most media would say that their top five looks something like Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, and then it's GT and Tyler Warren, right? But you're not supposed to take those guys this high. So they're just kind of like, uh, maybe?
that's I think that's the question that has to be answered in this draft, though,
Mhm.
because like we were saying, this is a starters draft, not a stars draft. But
Yeah.
the two
I
of the
was,
guys who could and probably will be stars in this draft are a running
mhm.
back and a tight end. And when does just getting a stud player at a non-premium position outweigh drafting for need or drafting a good player like
Yeah.
to get a star at a non-premium position, when is that better than getting a starter at a premium position? And the 8, 9,
Right.
10 range is like kind of where I'm like, yeah, man, like I would rather have an elite tight end for the next 10 years or 8 years or however long he can play at a high level with the beating he's going to take
Yeah.
than a good edge. Not a great edge, like a good one, like Michael
Right.
Williams, probably. But
Hmm.
pick number 9 is another interesting one. And these are new odds that were not here when I checked this morning. Odds on favorite, Shador Sanders plus 200.
Yeah.
Currently, the Saints pick the second best odds, Jackson Dart plus 550. And then Tyler Warren plus 900, Michael Williams plus 1,000. I don't know what the Saints are going to do, man. Like now, Derek Carr has a shoulder issue and may miss the entire season. I do think drafting a quarterback makes a lot of sense for the Saints for the same reasons that you and I have talked about in the past for why would Cleveland take a quarterback in this draft? Well, you are in like cap hell is not a strong enough word to describe the Saints
Yeah.
cap situation. You don't have a quarterback. Like Carr is mediocre at best at this point in his career. And then Spencer Rattler and what was the other guy? The kid from Fresno State that they played who had like the glamour shots as his
Yeah.
quarterback pick. I'm not even going to look up his name because he's not it. It's not worth the time it's going to take me to look him up. I think it's like Schaefer or something. So, like, quarterback's interesting here, but like, honestly, if I'm picking ninth and I can get my hands on someone who's pretty good, if I'm the Saints, man, I'm finally like, you know what? Next year is our year to just be absolutely awful. Like, not that they were great this year, but like,
Hmm.
we're going to tank it out next year and try to get a high pick in a draft that has guys like Arch Manning and Garrett Nussmeier in it. Much more promising quarterback talent.
Assuming that uh Kellen Moore has the backing to withstand an awful year, uh, that is probably the right move to
Yeah.
just take the best player and tank for a year.
Can I tell you something extremely concerning? Like, uh, maybe the most concerning thing I'll say on the pod. So I saw Derek Carr's shoulder was hurt and he might be out for the year. I was thinking that he had a massive salary, right?
Yeah.
Because he has this huge contract and they've restructured it and they've done all these things. And I was like, holy shit, man, this might be their get out of jail free card where if he has like a huge cap hit and it's not all guaranteed and they don't have to pay that this year because he's hurt, then I'm like, maybe this is the year where you finally are just like, we're going to be horrible here. We're going to restructure a bunch of people and throw all your money into this year and get ourselves free. Derek Carr's cap hit is $20 million this year. Do you want to guess how much of that is in salary and how much is in signing bonus?
I guess at least 19 million is in signing bonus.
Yeah, 19.2 million of his $20 million salary is in signing bonus thanks to restructures, and he's guaranteed a million. So his cap hit is 20 mil, whether he plays or not. You want to know what his cap hit is next season, Matt?
Like 60 some.
$69 million cap hit for Derek Carr.
Nice.
But I think next year is the out year because they save 9 million by cutting him because the dead cap is like 50 million or something. And then he has multiple void years where it, it's honestly the worst contract in football. Thinking about the amount of money they're about to spend to not have this guy on their team. Well, I don't know. We just saw it with Russell Wilson, I guess.
I was gonna say that there's this guy called Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, God, I forgot about it. How did we do this in the 2020s in football? How are there so many horrific quarterback contracts? I thought we were smarter. I thought we were smarter than this. You're right. Deshaun Watson is obviously number one with a bullet.
Yeah.
The Russell Wilson Denver thing is probably number two, and I think Carr is probably number three.
Yeah.
Pick 10. Currently, the Bears spot. Gene T plus 300, Tyler Warren plus 350, Kelvin Banks plus 900. So this is your worst fear, is that the two guys who are the odds on favorites are the two guys
Yeah.
that you are hoping do not go there.
Yeah. I mean, uh, I don't know. I just like the more we talk about it, the more I kind of just start to feel like unless the Bears go up and get one of those guys, I don't know that either of those guys are going to be there.
I agree with that. I really think that there's a strong possibility that those guys are the fifth and sixth pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Like, show me the odds on the first six picks in the draft being Ward, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Warren, Gene T. Someone give me that bet. That's the bet I want.
Yeah.
The just a few interesting tidbits before we go to our favorite gambling picks for the draft. Jackson Dart minus 425 to be a first round pick. Yeah. His over under is 24 and a half right now, with the over, I think, being plus 120. So it's like odds on favorite that he goes before pick 24 and a half, which I feel a little like Will Levisy on Jackson Dart, where he's like, the people are like, well, he could go to the Saints. Look, he has the second best odds to go to the Saints. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to be shocked if Jackson Dart is a first round pick or if Jackson Dart is a third round pick. Like, I guess third round would be more shocking to me, but like, just because he's a quarterback. Another one that was really surprising to me, Jalen Milroe plus 130 to be a first round pick. Plus 130 seems really low for Jalen Milroe to be a first round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
What do you think about Jalen Milroe? We have not talked about him as a prospect.
I have a hard time understanding how he sniffs the first round. I wouldn't take him in the second, maybe back of the third.
I
And
think,
that's just based on like the physical potential.
yeah, I think that's the thing, is that his ceiling might be the highest of any quarterback in this draft just because of the physical potential. But the chance that he's going to be even an okay quarterback is probably lower than like 10 guys in this draft.
Yeah.
Like, I always talk about the variance bands where it's like, yes, the highest end outcome for him is that he's the best quarterback in the draft and that he's Josh Allen 2.0. The next 10,000, like the 10,000 most likely outcomes before that outcome, are all that he's not that good. And he's a career backup, and he's like a Justin Fields with a worse processor. Less accurate Justin Fields,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's a tough comp.
Yeah.
Maybe Trey Lance is a fair comp here. Suddenly really like me some Jalen Milroe. Like, dude who can run, dude who can't pass,
Yeah.
has a nice deep ball, has nothing else. So I just thought it was interesting. Like, plus 130 is super duper low. Like, I would think the odds of him being a first round pick would be much better. Like, maybe it's something you get interested in sprinkling on because it's plus like 5,000. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe talk myself into it. Matt, you have any gambling picks that you really like?
Well, we got Tyler Warren under 9.5 at plus 185. I am smashing that
Hmm.
after our conversation. I just don't see him getting to 10.
I like that one. One I have, so I have bets I like and then all of my long shot sprinkles written down. And one of my long shot sprinkles is the one I talked about earlier. It's Tyler Warren to go fifth overall, and it's plus 2,000 right now.
Yeah.
I really like Patriots' first pick to be an offensive lineman. It is. Oh, they don't have it up anymore. Bastardos. When I did the notes for the podcast, it was minus 185 for the Patriots to pick an offensive line with their first overall pick. And I was like, it's not like super sexy odds, but it's a good like bankroll builder because it's going to happen. Jets first pick to be an offensive lineman is minus 125.
Yep.
I like that one. Um, Jackson Dart's over under is 24 and a half with the over being plus 125 right
Hmm.
now. I think that one's decent. And I think you can also take Jackson Dart to be the second quarterback selected. That's plus 200. If you think he
Yeah.
could go ahead of Shador Sanders, plus
Mhm.
200 right now.
So Miami's position of first drafted player. We've got offensive lineman at plus 120, which if any of the top guys are still there, is probably going to be the draft pick. But they also have cornerback at plus 210. And that is a massive need for them. And I'm going to guess that one of Will Johnson or Jade Barron will be there.
I I agree. I think Jade Barron's going to go late. I think he's going to have the Brian Branch treatment where Brian Branch fell way too far because of where he played, even though he was
Maybe.
one of the best
Yeah.
players. Like, I think they look at Jade as more of like a slot corner
Yeah,
slash
he's
like
he's kind of
star.
a yeah, he's kind of like a nickel, but I think we've also started to see a greater importance of the nickel in the NFL as well.
Yeah. I just guarantee you that when we come back on this podcast after the draft and say, what
Yeah.
were your favorite picks? My first one's going to be Jade Barron. Be like, Jade Barron went 23rd or 17th. They're
Yeah,
like,
if he goes later than like 15th, then he's probably going to be a steal.
yeah. Another one I find interesting is Kelvin Banks Jr., the tackle from Texas. His
Hmm.
over under is 13 and a half right now, with under 13 and a half being minus 170. So they think he's going top 13. I kind of like the over at plus 135.
Yeah.
And then the other one I liked was Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. And
Hmm.
I feel like people are just going to be like, wow, you hate Colston Loveland. And I swear to God, I don't. But I've said like negative sounding things about him now 3 weeks in a row. His over under is 18 and a half, and the under is minus 250 for him to go top 18. I kind of like the over at plus 195. And
The only
that moved.
the only thing that I will say about that is that if Tyler Warren is already gone when the Colts are on the clock, I think they're gonna have a hard time looking away from him.
I see it. I think that he is more interesting in this draft because of the lack of wide receiver talent.
Yes.
And so he's one of the better pass catchers in a class where he typically wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Although I think he could. I keep saying this every week, and then I feel like I talk shit about him. But I think he can be very good. I think he's going to be Dalton
Hmm.
Kincaid basically, and I like Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a normal draft, he does not go top 18 as the second tight end and being like a pass catching tight end. He feels
Yeah.
like a 20s pick to me. And so I'm not saying I have
Yeah.
a first round grade on him.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Hmm.
dissing him. It's just not top 18.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, he's a guy that I think wherever he ends up, he's gonna produce just because he's a separator. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's a matter of like how do those other cards fall in the first half of the draft, of the round of like, is Tyler Warren still there when the Colts are picking? Because I think that the Colts are probably the only team that is hell-bent on taking a tight end in the first round.
Yeah. Much longer odd picks that I like. Matthew Golden, who was my wide receiver one in this class, to go top 10 is plus 1200. I don't I don't know who takes him in the top 10, but a lot of people think Dallas is going to take a wide receiver at number 12.
Yeah.
Um, the 49ers just traded away Debo Samuel at 11. Like, I think there's some spots for him in the
Yeah.
early teens and the whatever you call 11 and 12 right there.
Hmm.
So maybe someone wants to get ahead of them and they trade up to like 9-10 to do that. Like I think the Saints are kind of a prime trade out candidate to get more picks if they're not going to take a quarterback. Or maybe the Saints take them. The like wide receivers in need. We talked about Tyler Warren going fifth, Gene T going fifth, Jade Barron going sixth to the Raiders, Will Johnson going sixth to the Raiders. Jade Barron is plus 2,800 in that spot. Will Johnson is plus 750. So those are a little bit
Hmm.
longer odds. Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle, who was one of my guys, to go
Yeah.
top 10 plus 1,600. Does someone get good medicals on him after the knee injury and just goes like, yeah, he's the best offensive lineman. He's got the prototypical size. Like, we really like him. Like, could the Jets take him 7? Is he someone, maybe the Patriots trade down a couple spots and Will Campbell and Armand Membu are gone and they're like, hey, we really like this guy and we got good medicals on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Trey Amos is plus 265 to go in the first round. I could see that, especially like in the back of the first. That's kind of when we start seeing teams kind of just like take their guys and go away from like the real like media mock drafty kind of usual picks. I think Donovan Jackson is plus 190. I can't get away from the way he stepped up for that offensive line for Ohio State when he had to move out to left tackle. Like, someone's gonna love that, and he's a good player.
Yeah.
Like,
I,
uh,
I feel like we're going to have at least one top 10 pick that is like not only just not vanilla, but like a straight up what the fuck did they just do pick.
oh, absolutely.
Um, I'm just looking like Walter Nolan's plus 2,000, Luther Burden plus
Hmm.
2,500, Gray Zabel plus 3,000 to go top 10. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even saying it would be a horrible pick, but Travion Henderson plus 1,900. Like, what if the Bears were just like, yeah, we have Travion Henderson as the RB2 and Gene T's gone? Like, I don't hate those as long shot picks. There's a couple like draft matchup picks that are interesting. So who goes first? Donovan Ezeraku, the edge from Boston College, or Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State. Egbuka's plus 130 to go before Ezeraku.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. Jihad Campbell is plus 125 to go ahead of Gray Zabel. And Matthew Golden's plus 180 to go ahead of Michael Williams right now. So those are up there. There will be more of those coming up soon. And then I told you my favorite bet of the entire draft today. The team to draft Shador Sanders, the Atlanta Falcons plus 10,000. You never know. You never know what the Falcons are going to do, Matt. They might draft a quarterback when they already have Kirk Cousins. They might blow a 28-3 lead. It could be crazy.
I'm kind of disappointed they don't have him on the first round list odds.
Shador?
Because no, so you're talking about like long shot, like what the fuck picks. Omar Norman Law,
Oh,
like barely played, right? His pass rush efficiency was ungodly. Like, like there are a lot of people who like really like James Pierce's abilities in this draft, and he was putting that dude to shame the limited amount of time he was on the field.
yeah.
Um, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a team that is kind of sitting there in the back half of the first round that's just like, hey, don't really love what I got. Let's shoot our shot.
Or like, could the Eagles just be like, yeah, we can develop him?
Yeah,
Like he's a
right.
trades guy. My prediction for the draft is that there is going to be two things are going to happen. One is like the Christian Wilkins type of pick where someone in the top 10 just makes a pick and even the people announcing the draft are like, like they're flipping through their notes like what the hell just happened.
Yeah,
And then two is someone's going to go in the mid to late first where it's like the Damon Arnett, like not to pick on the Raiders too much, but the Damon Arnett or who was that corner that the Commanders drafted 2 years ago
oh,
from Mississippi State?
Emmanuel Forbes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, where it's just like everybody knows that was a horrible pick.
yeah,
When it's made, we're all going to be like, "Oh my god." And it's just going to play out that way. I think those two things happen in this draft. And I think if you can figure out who those players are and where they go, that you can make quite a bit of money
yeah.
on these odds. But that is it for us. As always, Foul Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouloutsports@gmail.com, and you can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It is a long name, but you can't miss it. This podcast is going to come out Thursday, April 17th, exactly 1 week away from the first round of the NFL draft. Matt and I are going to record next Monday. So you will get a podcast from us Tuesday, the 22nd, 2 days before the draft. That will be our first round, maybe plus a couple second round picks, mock draft, where Matt and I are going to go evens and odds and just go back and forth. And we're going to do a whole on the air mock for you guys of what we would do at those picks. So it might get a little spicy depending on which one of us picks first overall, because they may not be picking Cam Ward. Spoiler alert. But my friend, I will see you soon.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Bye,
Mom.
Robin.